How many schools do you think you talked to?
Out of high school, I talked to 104 JUCOs. JUCO career, I talked to north of 100 Division Ones.
That's so sick!
Gavin Oswald.
Former Rawlings Tigers player, former Savannah Banana.
And has one of the craziest recruiting journeys of all time.
Mineral area.
Oklahoma.
Wichita State.
And the University of North Alabama.
Ask me what I did wrong. Instead of me looking at your face, I'm looking at the logo of Auburn in front.
Yeah.
I'm blinded by the school and not looking at
The person.
the person.
What did you do right?
One thing I did that
In this conversation, Gavin shares his expert knowledge on the college system, how to talk to coaches, and what it took to navigate in a difficult recruiting environment.
What were your tactics and your thought process going into your recruiting?
the best advice I could give is
If you're not being talked about, you're a nobody.
there's one school that has ever blocked me because I message them too much. It's
This is the Gavin Oswald story, and this is a Rawlings Tigers podcast.
So you've had an unbelievable ride so far.
I have a lot of crazy stories, to say the least.
So when you talk, just make sure the mic's like close to the mouth when you talk. But
Sounds good.
So 2020 pre-COVID, the
Yep.
reason I wanted to interview you and JD, because we're doing it in the same day,
Yep.
is that you guys were COVID kids,
Yep.
meaning like you didn't have COVID, but like you were part of that
Yeah.
spectrum.
That class.
And your route towards college baseball is probably never going to happen ever again.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good use case to explain how to navigate it in extremely tough times.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. It was kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it makes me better because I went through all that. I went through having to put myself out there more than because coaches couldn't come in and see us.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to put yourself out there, be a little vulnerable at times
Mm-hmm.
because you're putting stuff on social media for all your friends to see that necessarily not the way you talk normally, but you have to appeal to what a coach wants to hear and hop on phone calls all the time, step out of family dinners, all that, because they're not grabbing you after a game.
Yeah.
It has to be in a confined area where they're halfway across the country talking to you.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
And potentially, like, another reason that I wanted to bring you on is because the NCAA brought out a new rule where, it hasn't been made official yet, but one player has it now. And I just watched Pat Mahaffey's interview with the NCAA president right before I talked to you. And his conversation with him was very interesting because it was basically preluding that, this is possibly going to happen. So recruiting is going to get even extremely tough, probably tougher than COVID to a certain degree from getting into a 4-year institution, not necessarily getting into college baseball, but being into a 4-year institution. So what were your tactics and your thought process going into your recruiting as a freshman? And then how did it change quickly when you started getting into your junior year, when I started coaching you and Dave started coaching you?
So one thing I did that, I guess putting pride aside, every kid's dream is to go D1, play pro ball. I went through and I said, okay, maybe D1's not going to happen because when all that started happening, even before COVID, you had some roster changes and all this, that, and the other. So I went through and I made a list of D1s, D2s, NAIAs, and JUCOs. And I reached out to them. I sent a personalized email to every one of them. That was a big thing. Also, is not the, hey, coach, and then comma, the blanket email. But it was, hey, coach, so-and-so, plus a personalized sentence in there so they knew I cared. You always get a response back. And just going through that, I had an open mind of, hey, whatever level I go to is the one I go to. So I guess it changed when I played for you guys because we got more exposure. Mm-hmm. But going into it, it was D1, D1, D1 when I'm 14, 15 years old. And as we got older, it's okay, maybe this JUCO thing isn't so bad. Because then I get to meet the older guys that have went the JUCO route and realize that's a great route for them.
What was the response rate that you were getting?
I'd say it was pretty good. When you talk to schools like I went to a camp at Oklahoma State or Xavier, Western Kentucky, it would be slower because they have a lot more traffic coming in and out, kids wanting to go there all the time. But typically I get a response back. JUCOs, NAIs, it was pretty much right off the bat. And it was started with an email, but the biggest thing was following up through Twitter. Because not a lot of guys I'd see when they sit down, they're bored, they go scroll through their email. A lot of guys scroll through Twitter. You get the funny videos, the baseball videos, but you also have your direct messages in there.
Yeah.
So we saw that, and that was the immediate response.
So like what prompted you to do that?
Talking to other guys, I guess just talking to other guys that have been through it while also talking to coaches, because I was blessed to be here where we have coaches that gave me advice, knowing Coach Pratt, all that. Just that's an example, but they tell you, hey, email's great, but also Twitter, not so much Instagram or whatever. I mean, you can use it. I've seen it used, but mainly Twitter is used as because you see guys post on it all the time now. It's just Twitter's so easy because it's right there. It's so accessible. And then an email requires a follow-up. And Twitter, they can just click on your profile. Okay, he did this, he did this. Maybe he goes all the way back to, for me, I was getting recruited in 21. They go back to 19. They say, okay, he's been progressing. He's gone from 82 to 87. Okay, we like the way he's moving along here. It's so much more accessible and convenient.
Do you think that was like a natural progression because of your personality, because you're more extroverted than most?
That helped. It helped. It was the carrying on the conversation was easier. It didn't feel so business-like.
Yeah.
You form a connection, and then you got down to business. I was able to pick up the phone, and the small talk wasn't, hey, how you doing? It was more actually feeling I had a connection with the coach. 'Cause that was a big thing for me, the recruiting process. I didn't want to go somewhere where it felt so set in stone. Yeah, hostile. Like if you didn't perform on the field, you were not valued in the locker room. So I set that relationship first in the phone call, and then being extroverted helped with that because I'm used to having conversations like that. And then we got down to business.
And then you ended up choosing to go junior college.
Yep.
Did you have any Division IIs or Division IIIs or NAIAs or Division Is knocking on your door?
Division Is were, I think I only had one, and it was a PWO, preferred walk-on spot. I was undersized. I didn't throw it hard enough. So I had to have a reality check in the mirror, say, hey.
Because you were throwing, 81, 82?
Yeah, I think my senior year I was at the 85, I think.
Okay.
I think that sounds right. I think the summer before my senior year is 85. But I trusted that, hey, I'd gone from my freshman year 76 all up to 85. I was progressing well. I trusted that. And with COVID, because that was when I was traveling, I went and played the Worldwood Bat, and I threw really well. And Division I still showed no interest. And that's when I realized, okay, there's going to be a lot of seniors coming back, a lot of juniors coming back. This is going to be a good route to go junior college. And then middle area right down the road. I'm close to home. I'm with some guys I even know down there. They're also on the up and up. They've just won conference for the first time ever. So all the pieces came together where it seemed like that was going to be the
it
fit.
seemed like it was like a wall of bodies that were basically preventing you from getting to the level that you were aspiring to get to.
Yeah, and there were a couple of NAIs, D2s, D3s, but even if I had the scholarship or the spot, it was still it's going to be an uphill climb. There's going to be guys ahead of me. I'm going to be 18 years old, not throwing hard enough, potentially competing with a 23-year-old coming back from COVID. That's hard.
Yeah, which again, that's probably going to be more reality than anything else moving into the future, because we were just talking about it that right before we got on camera, is that if they do pass it, technically you would have another 2 years.
Technically, if I had my medical redshirt last year and my 2 years from junior college, I'm 22 years old and I'm a freshman. I'd have 3 years left after this one. I'm 22.
So you could end up spending a decade in
I would be
college?
7 years.
7 years?
2 years at middle area, Wichita State, North Alabama, then for 3. So, 7 or 8 years. That would be – I'm going to have a doctorate in sport management. So
at what do you – okay, how do you feel about that?
I think it's a little different for me than other people because I'm getting married next year. So at some point,
you're starting a family. Almost.
Yeah, I don't want to look at my kids at 25 and say, "Hey, kids, Dad's got a game today." but hey, Mom's gonna drop you guys off at school today. Dad's got a game. But
Dad's going on a three day road trip.
Yeah, Mom's got you. Dad's going to Florida Gulf Coast this weekend. But at the same time,
on ESPN.
yeah. At the same time, though, it's a great opportunity for some guys that's happening at the same time the NIL's growing, because there are situations out there. You see it in football more now than any other sport. There's guys that are 27. I think that guy for Utah is 27 or 28 and just hit the transfer portal. It's not even done because they're getting so much NIL money that they can't support a family. They're going into so far into their 20s, it doesn't matter to them because that's a 6-figure paying job.
Yeah, it's a net positive for them.
Yeah.
Where like you're just getting a degree.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with NIL?
I think it's very subjective. There's guys that go around, and I spent a lot of time last year because Wichita State, good baseball program, and people recognize that name. So I DM'd a lot of people on Instagram, Twitter, like we talked about. I kind of went through I had the same mindset of the recruiting because I'm trying to get them to recruit me and bring me on board with them. And a lot of it is you have to go with the school you're at, find who they're connected to. So we had a lot of guys. Chicken and Pickle is a good big restaurant in Wichita. They got the pickleball. It's a fun place to be. But they were close with the Wichita State Athletics, and I wasn't aware of that, so I didn't follow through with that. Whereas other guys, mainly the returners that knew that, they went with them, and they knew already. And that kind of taught me, okay, find local towns, not local establishments, companies. You're not going to find an NIL with Subway unless you're Shooter Sanders or whoever's those huge names that everybody knows. So
but also the institutions are going to start being able to contribute to NIL.
That's a big one too.
Yeah, that just passed last April, right?
Yeah, I think it used to be for the first couple of years, it was go find your own NIL deals or have somebody reach out to you, and then you just fill out a form with the compliance of your school to let them know, hey, I have an NIL deal with them. I'm not illegally getting paid. I'm not getting any extra benefits for being an athlete, because that's one of the rules is if I'm going through the drive-through of a place, I can't get a free chicken sandwich because like, oh, you're a University of North Alabama baseball player. That's illegal. But if I were to fill it out on the sheet, all this, that, and the other, that I'm getting paid, that's fine. Now, a lot of those companies are donating to the school, and then they disperse it however they want.
Yeah.
So then the school is paying you instead of the company individually.
Yeah, which then, if you think about it, the institutions have kind of lost their relationship a little bit with the athlete to a certain degree from a monetary standpoint because they've given up the reins to that. That's why the whole institutions are now going to be able to support that and be able to offer more money.
Yeah, I think it's a little weird. It's a good opportunity for kids, but it's also a little weird that you have 18-year-olds that without stepping on campus, without meeting their teammates, it's immediately a financial conversation.
Yeah.
Which is very odd for 40, 50, 60-year-old coaches to have with an 18-year-old who's kind of put his foot down and saying, hey, I have the power here, which is weird. I mean, they talked about Bill Belichick just going to North Carolina. And the big thing on that is I've seen posts that he's, 77 years old, and he's going to have to negotiate with an 18-year-old. It's very weird. It's almost like the schools have lost a little power.
Yeah.
And then they're hooked. Once they've paid you that much money, if you convince them, if you get a lot more opportunities than other people because they don't want to sit you down. In football, you're making $150,000. They don't want to say, let's put that guy on the bench.
Did you have any players that were making a lot of money, or was it more of just like people were trying to drum up business for themselves and get extra cash to be able to support themselves in college?
We had a couple. It's sporadic.
Does it change the dynamics of the team?
A little bit. We had a couple guys that would post on Twitter that, hey, thank you so-and-so for this gift or this donation. And it would be like we had a guy last year, it was a car. He's a great guy, but we didn't know who he was. He posted before school even started. So we're like, who's this guy with the car? He's a freshman. But he ended up being a great dude, but the outlook on him when we first started was
jealousy a little bit.
A little bit of what is a freshman. What's going on here? But a lot of it's sporadic. Like a guy will all of a sudden in November he'll make a big deal because he's been working on this for a while. And other than the huge big schools or the huge names, you don't necessarily get that. Yeah, you're getting paid throughout the whole year. You get you made an appearance or you made a post, so you're going to get a good chunk of change right now. But it's not going to be once every 2 weeks like a paycheck type of thing.
So I want to switch gears here a little bit, and I think you're like an absolute good use case on this, is that you went to junior college, then you committed to Oklahoma, you then decommitted, went to Wichita State, played a year there, and then you moved on from there to Northern Alabama, right?
Yep.
So talk about the decommitting process and the committing process with Oklahoma, and then talk about your time at Wichita State. Okay. And then how you've changed and moved paths towards Northern Alabama, because that's a lot of transfers, and I think that's good to know, like the ugly, the bad, and the good about it.
Yeah, it's something that we talk about in my family a lot because I take these opportunities, and I could shut down and say, "Oh, this was terrible," but I would rather me go through that and help a bunch of other people, like help my little brother with it. But going through that, with Oklahoma, it was when I had a really good freshman year. the phrase I heard all the time from the incoming freshmen that knew who I was, or the guys that our second baseman and shortstop that played behind me the year before, even our coaches, Power 5 or bust was the word I heard, or the phrase I heard all the time. At Mineral Area.
Okay.
So when I remember Georgia Southern or North Alabama or schools in Arkansas like Little Rock, relatively good baseball programs, but in my head, being a naive kid, I just wrote them off immediately because I was okay. Power 5 or bust. That's what we're thinking here.
Yep.
Okay. And then I threw in the fall against Johnson County, really good JUCO, and I threw fantastic. Or it was the game before, but it was a really good JUCO we were playing. I forget who it was. I threw really well, and Oklahoma was there. Nothing really came of it, and then I came back after winter break and I hit 93. That opened some eyes. They texted me immediately, and I was hooked. It was OU. I had friends there. I'd been there. I'm a Mizzou fan. I've seen Mizzou play them. They're great. They're crazy. Yeah. So it took me, a week, 2 weeks, and I was in. I called them. I said, hey, I'm in. Boomer Sooner, I'm in. Okay. I had an okay sophomore year. Guys kind of figured me out a little bit. I went down the velo road of velo hunting.
So wait, did you commit your freshman year, or was it your sophomore fall?
Sophomore spring. Sorry, right after I hit that 93.
Yeah. After
my sophomore year, I hit that 93 in January.
Okay.
Sorry, I kind of got lost my own thoughts there.
No, you're good.
So that opened some eyes right before my sophomore year. But in the process of velo hunting, it kind of flattened some things out. I had an okay sophomore year, but hey, I was still committed. I was still good. I was still throwing decently hard. I was scrolling Twitter at my best friend's house, and I saw that the recruiting coordinator had been let go at OU. And immediately that's,
without any warning whatsoever.
Yeah, I had not been filled in at all. And part of it was with the transfer portal, he said, hey, you have a scholarship, but we don't know what it is because we're waiting on 8 guys to decide or whatever the number was. So I was kind of I was already on my toes a little bit. Like, hey, if this doesn't come through.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. And
because your time's basically running out because you've already thrown majority of the year, right?
Yep. It feels like a ticking time bomb at this point. So I get through the year. Don't really hear anything, but I'm not too worried. I'm in contact with them. All is well. I convinced myself it's all okay. Nothing to worry about. Then I get to June. I'm at my best friend's house on Twitter. Breaking news. Oklahoma's recruiting coordinator has been let go a year after going to Omaha. Well, that immediately sets off alarms in my head because he's the one that recruited me. I had little to no contact with the head coach other than I think one conversation. So I called the head coach, and it was kind of, he's going to defend his own guys, and the recruiting coordinator, Clay Overcash, is going to defend his guys.
Yeah.
So Overcash had recruited me. Head coach was kind of like, I don't know. I haven't seen you throw. It was all Overcash, and he's not here anymore. So I said, okay, I appreciate the opportunity, but I really don't want to go into a situation where you don't know who I am, and that just doesn't seem like a great situation to be in going into a big school like that.
Did he lean you more towards that, like to leave?
Yeah.
Or did you kind of lean that? Did you just take the initiative and say, I'm out?
I was 1 foot out the door already in this conversation, knowing if he said anything, it was going to spook me away, say, okay.
So he knew what he was doing, basically.
Kind of, yeah. He did it very professionally, but I knew what he was getting at. Yeah. So I appreciate the opportunity. I have no hard feelings at all. I root nothing but the best for you guys. My friends are on that team. So, boom, we're back in the recruiting process. Did it in high school.
And this is June?
Yep, this is June. So I did it after high school, did it after my freshman year of junior college, did it during sophomore year. Now we're on round 4.
So then where did Cashman go?
He went to Wichita State.
Oh, okay. So that's how you got.
Yep. And I had talked to Coach Claggett and Coach Green, who were the pitching coach and the hitting coach at Wichita State, when they were at Washington State after my freshman year of junior college.
Okay.
So there was 3 guys that I had a good relationship with that all moved to Wichita State. Coach Miller he was the new hitting coach. He had coached at a junior college, and I knew a bunch of guys there. So I kind of knew who he was. It's pretty rare you're going to go into a Division I program and know 4 of the 5 or 6 coaches.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like it fit. It was fairly close to home. Great baseball programming, the rich history.
So did Cashman call you?
Actually, he wasn't allowed to. I talked to the pitching coach, Coach Anthony Claggett, and he said, I can't tell you who's coming on because I found this extremely interesting. When Overcash left Oklahoma, he can't talk to any players for 2 weeks until they his release goes through to the university and to the NCAA declaring that he's looking for a job, he cannot talk to anybody. So I've been texting him, calling him, like, what's going on? And nothing. I was like, man, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then I figured out he couldn't talk to me. And the second it got put on Twitter that, yeah, he's at Wichita State, I was the first person he called. It's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't call you. We're happy to have you because I had already committed. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was great news for me. I had a feeling that we were going to cross paths again. I didn't expect it to be 2 months after I had last talked to him in Kansas in August.
Yeah.
But it just made sense going to a school like that, coaches like that, and I heard nothing but good things. I mean, their stadium's insane, their facilities are insane, great school, good extracurriculars, basketball team's cool, good, the campus is beautiful.
Yep.
Perfect. This makes sense.
Yeah.
I go there. I even surprised myself with how well I threw in the fall. I was like, wow, I felt unstoppable. I started our first fall game, and then one thing led to the next. We made mechanical changes. And I developed this thing. We called it in my house, we call it the hitch, where my arm was not fluid. My arm motion wasn't fluid. I couldn't throw a strike, and I was like 84. In the fall I had an outing, I was 90, 92, just dicing people.
How does that happen?
To be honest with you, going back, it seemed like the most impossible thing to overcome. Looking back, I have no idea how it happened, and I have no idea why it took so long to fix. It was more of a mental thing than anything.
Did your coaches find any? Like, did your coaches see anything?
Yeah, we tried a million different things.
Really?
It was, okay, we're going to change this when you come set. We're going to change this with your arm action. We're going to change this with your timing.
That's so weird.
And nothing seemed to change because it wasn't the same. It wasn't, I have one consistently bad arm motion. It was one's way up top, thrown like a catcher. One's all the way down to my knees. One's straight back to second base. One's
How does that happen? That's so weird.
no idea. I just lost it.
That's so weird.
I know. I called my dad.
So, like, how long did you were experiencing this?
All year.
Really?
So it happens in the fall.
But like you had a really good fall though, right?
Yeah, so it happens towards the end of the fall.
Okay.
Where it starts to, you can kind of see it a little bit. It's kind of kicking up a little bit. It's not
Yeah.
as smooth, but I finished in the Fall World Series 3 scoreless innings. Okay, I'm done with the competition part of the fall. I can focus on my mechanics, get back to where I was. All is well.
Do you think it was like a dead arm situation where like you pitched all the way through junior college, you were the top guy from Middle Area, and then you go into the summer months and you probably threw in the summer, right?
After my freshman year, I went down to Georgia, down to Savannah, and played there.
Okay.
But I didn't play after my sophomore year.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, gotcha. That's so weird. That's so odd.
We couldn't figure it out. I talked to like a sports psychologist because I was like, maybe because we
It's
talked
gotten to
we're
that
like,
point.
Yeah,
Wow.
because we're like maybe it's a mental thing of I'm thinking about my mechanics and not just throwing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we figured nope, that's not it. We get like one of those analyst things
Yeah.
where it checks your mechanics. Nope, not that.
like a vest or something.
Yeah, something like that. I was like, well, I don't know what's going on. So I get through the fall. My coach tells me, he calls me into his office and he says, for Thanksgiving break, in the week before, most guys are going home. The guys that are from Canada or Minnesota, they're going home early. Take 2 weeks. Don't even come to the facility. Don't think about baseball. Go home for 2 weeks.
Go to your long vacation.
Pretty much. They go to your apartment. Focus on school. Don't let school get out of hand. But don't think about baseball. Just do your thing. Live your life and come back like nothing happened. And I come back, same thing. God, I was so excited to throw. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I come home for winter break. Fix it. We fix it. I feel great. I go back in. I think the projection was I was going to be in that Sunday to midweek starter area at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, get hurt. All right, that's fine. I was throwing a bullpen.
What was the injury?
I slipped on a wet turf mound, and then when my leg finally caught, it kicked up into my back. So I had a disc out of place, and then my nerve slid behind that disc. So then when that disc healed, it kind of crushed that nerve. So my right leg was tingling for 6 or 7 months.
That's so odd.
Yeah, it was just one thing after the next of things I'd never heard of happening before.
Yeah.
Okay.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, it felt like it. So then we get back. I'm like, all right, it's all right. I still know how to throw. I'm just hurt a little bit. Nope, hitch is back. Oh, my Lord. And it got to the point where I didn't know. I knew I loved baseball, but I didn't know how much I loved it when all this was going on. I didn't want to go to practice. Didn't want to get out of bed. I went home, and all I did was play video games. I didn't talk to anyone. And I didn't even realize what was going on until now, looking back on it. It's like, man, that was a low spot.
Yeah, it's a black hole.
Yeah. So we get back. Finally, I'm like, okay, I'm fairly confident, and if I'm going to have a bad arm motion, I'm going to make it consistent, make it playable. Well, I tried to pitch through the back injury against Auburn. Note to all you listeners out there, if you ever try to throw through an injury, don't do it against an SEC team. That's a word of advice.
Yeah.
So
you got lit up.
I think I gave up 4 or something. I couldn't throw a strike was the main part. I was trying to overcompensate. It once again, one thing after the next.
Yeah.
Get through that. I'm healthy. I have at least a consistent arm motion. We have the second half of the year left.
Yep.
Until I almost break my ankle. We're playing spike ball.
Okay.
Of all the times growing up, don't play wiffle ball. Don't swim the day before games. Don't do all the other stuff that could potentially get you hurt or tire you out.
Yeah.
I finally did it at 21 years old. And it was just we're warming up, having fun, screwing around.
Yeah.
And I just landed on the outside of my ankle, and I couldn't walk on it without a boot for 3 weeks. And I think there was an unspoken agreement between the coaches and I that was kind of, okay, just chalk it up.
Yep.
Just give him the med red. We know what he's capable of, and let's just move on.
So you still
Let
had the
them
medical
happen.
red?
Yeah.
What, because you only threw 1 inning, or?
Yeah, I ended up throwing against Oklahoma, I think, in April, but it was because there was 2 injuries that took so long that they think there's like a 97% chance it goes through. Very likely. The NCAA still has to approve it, but I think it's going to go through. But it was because I threw before the halfway point. I think Oklahoma was the halfway point. So the way the med red works is if you throw after the halfway point in the year, you basically have to blow out to get your medical red shirt if you do that. But I had the ankle and the back, which aren't super crazy injuries, but they were each a month and a half to 2 months long.
Yeah.
But I threw before the halfway point, so we're thinking it's going to go through. Mm-hmm. So
Is it still up for debate?
it's still up for debate. I'm submitting it. It's submitted as we speak.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that process takes a while getting it through the NCAA because there's so many steps you have to go through. You have to get medical records from the chiropractor here in Wichita, the trainer records.
Yeah, it's like
talk
a
to
whole
compliance.
process. Yeah, it's a whole process. Yeah. It's a disaster.
So I go in for my exit meeting at the end of the year, and I was terrified. First time in a while I'd been terrified of something.
Yeah.
Even throwing, I was nervous. I wasn't terrified. I was terrified of this exit meeting because
You don't know if you're getting relieved.
pretty much. And I knew as a new coaching staff, they came in and they had 9 guys on the roster in July. So they just got as many guys as they could together. And I knew deep down it was kind of guys that didn't perform, you're out.
Yeah, because they want to stay.
Yeah, they want to stay. This is a great situation for them. It's a great program, and they don't have football, so all the attention goes to baseball and basketball, so they get all the amenities and everything. And they sat me down, and I could see the look on their face. They didn't have to say anything. It's like, I'm in the portal after this.
Yeah.
And it went better than I expected. They kind of talked about there's some times where the grass.
So was it a harder break for both of you guys because they liked you so much, or was it like they were like, we need to get this kid out of this program?
No. It was a mutual thing. And I said, hey, I started off. I kind of broke the ice. I said, hey guys, in good news, I'm not hurt anymore. In bad news, I still don't know how to throw a baseball. And they kind of laughed about it because at this point it had become a running joke in the locker room. And I would throw all the time. I threw more than the weekend starters just because I wanted to fix it so bad. And there were guys that would walk around like, hey, looking better today. Next day, right back to where we were. I couldn't get.
So they saw that you were working hard.
Yeah, they saw.
They knew that you were a good kid and everything like that. Okay.
And we talked about it, and they said, hey, there's some times where a program doesn't align with a player. It happens. Unfortunately, it happens because when we talked to you at Washington State, we talked to you at Wichita State, even when you were here, we want you. You're a good locker room guy. It's so hard for us to say the year was so rough on you. It was so rough on us to see you go through that and for us to try to help you, and there was nothing we could do because we tried everything. It wouldn't work. I think it would just be best if we parted ways. And I don't think there's some guys that they leave and I'm like, they didn't cut it. I know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, this guy's he proved he can throw a Division I at JUCO. You've proved it here for 3 or 4 months while you were here, 2-3 months, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm just shoving in the fall. You have to, we will be a reference for you guys, and if you need us to send you to schools, call us.
Yeah, that's cool.
I ended on a good note. I texted the head coach 3 weeks later, said, hey, this school's contacted me. What do you know? And we hopped on a phone call. It was great things. And I saw him at a summer game. We talked like friends.
That's crazy cool.
I
mean, breakups usually don't end that way.
It all ended on a good note, and I still talk to Gannon Snyder, who's from St. Louis. Talk to him there all the time, and a bunch of my friends there. I still talk to him. I didn't leave, and I was like, I hope that school loses every game.
Yeah.
I still am like, I hope those guys go crazy this year.
Yeah, for sure.
And having the opportunity, having good people as coaches was a big part in that too.
Yeah. So then talk about Northern Alabama.
So then I hit the portal, and the length of phone calls there was insane. It was a coach called me, and I knew I was gonna be on the phone for an hour. Because the immediate question was, the first question, not even a, hey, how's it going? Every coach, what happened?
Yeah.
How did you get to this point? I had a couple of NAI schools and D2s tell me, we didn't even contact you at a junior college because we thought, this guy's not coming here.
Yeah, no shot. Yeah.
And we're going to waste our time or your time. And I would have reached out back to them, but I understand. And now we're reaching back out to you because at OU, I didn't have a good outing, and then against Auburn, I didn't have a good outing. You had 40 ERA in one inning. What happened?
Yeah.
And I had to explain this whole thing. And part of it was I finally figured out my mechanics in the summer, but I couldn't throw hard. I couldn't get the power. I couldn't get the trust from the injury. I couldn't get the trust from the trusting that my mechanics were back. And there was no explosion. I was moving like I was 15 again, just kind of aiming it up there. I was going to beat you by hitting spots and mixing it up. I wasn't going to blow you away. I was like, I'm supposed to tell a coach that I had a rough year. You should bring me on. I'm 83, 84 right now. That's very hard to do.
That's a hard ask for a Division I.
Yeah, very hard. And I had a couple schools come out to watch me. Not really a response back. So
what were you throwing in the summer? Like,
I was like 84, 85 on a good day, 81, 83 on a normal day.
Do you think it was like subconsciously something was going
I think so,
because your body you've shown that your body is capable of throwing hard.
Yeah. And it felt watching video. I finally conquered this in the fall, but I felt like I was giving everything I had. I was grunting, pushing, driving off the back leg, and I watched it on video, and I'm moving at 40% slow motion. I mean, it was slow.
So your mind was like...
Yeah. So it was a mental block of being hurt in the past year. My mind didn't want to say, just go play.
Yeah.
We were going to grind our way through it instead of play our way through it. So finally, as soon as I hit the portal, North Alabama came in my head. It's like I had a great relationship with them in junior college. The young guys, a program that's on the rise, and my JUCO coaches had nothing but good things to say about them. I texted them right away. And they called me back. First question, what happened? And I explained it to them.
So another hour-long conversation and trying to explain yourself and all that, yeah.
And the thing that I knew right away, I was going to go to UNA when he said, okay, we know what you've done. We believe in what you've done and can do. We'll fix you. And in that mind, just having someone at that point in my life and that mental state I was in, I guess, being like, okay, we believe in you.
Yeah.
Because there were people out there that my dad told me all the time, he's like, guys, believe in you. You just need to believe in yourself. It's so hard. I'm hurt. I can't throw a strike. I can't throw hard anymore. I'm a shell of what I used to be.
Yeah.
So hearing that from them was, okay, I'm in.
You know how to get guys out, though.
Still know how to get guys out. I think I had a 1.2 in the summer. It's just really hard to say, oh, we had a 1.2.
Yeah, it's hard to convince someone.
He's 84.
Yeah, it's hard to convince. Like, does that velocity play at the next level?
Because when you go D1, I've seen guys that are 84, 86, but they have to be perfect.
Yeah,
and their stuff has to be
make
gross.
A mistake.
Yeah,
if you make a mistake, you're pretty much gonna get shelled.
You need a new ball. If you make a mistake in the zone at any speed of 84, 85, you need a new ball. Unfortunately.
So this is your first year at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I could not be happier. Beautiful campus. Coaches are great. Teammates are great. We're getting a new field. First time we're postseason eligible this year after going D1. That's exciting. The buzz around town is
what conference you guys
big.
in?
We're in the ASUN. So it's us, Florida Gulf Coast, Central Arkansas, Eastern Kentucky, guys like that.
So you're going to be in the warm weather basically the whole time.
Well, they actually just split our conference up into divisions. I think it's the East.
Yeah.
Is Florida Gulf Coast, North Florida, all the Florida schools, and Queens and Carolina, and I get to go to Central Arkansas.
Oh God.
Eastern Kentucky, so Richmond, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Lipscomb, Bellarmine, and I forget the.
So you're
the other
staying
one.
north.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Dang.
Yeah, but our non-con is crazy.
Okay, so the nitty gritty of it, like the whole transfer and the playing side is great. How the hell does it work for your academics? What was that process like? Because that just sounds like a big mess, because you're dealing with multiple states, you're dealing with multiple different universities, you're dealing with the junior college, you're dealing with the state school, and then I'm guessing Northern Alabama is a state school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the biggest thing about it was that for every major, there's a different department that it falls under. So I did my core classes in mineral area, got those out of the way. I did my basic prereqs for my sport management classes, because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do since I was 11 years old. Got that all done. Was good. I'm actually ahead of schedule for a 4-year university.
So you got your AA?
Got my AA.
Okay.
And I have multiple.
And all of that transferred over?
Yep.
No issues whatsoever?
No issues going
Okay.
to Wichita State.
Okay.
Everything's good. Go through Wichita State. Get that all figured out.
But then what about compliance for Oklahoma? Did you have to go through the compliance process through Oklahoma?
I didn't get that deep into it.
You didn't get to that deep?
No.
Okay, so you didn't even have to deal with that.
I had one meeting with the advisors, and that was really it. There was nothing. We set a tentative schedule, and I emailed her the next day. I said, hey, I'm sorry. I'm in the transfer portal. Sorry for wasting an hour of your time yesterday. And that was really it.
Gotcha. Okay, so then now okay, so talk about Wichita State.
So Wichita State, sport management falls under business there. So my sport business classes, my business ethics classes, everything that's related to business is what I'm taking there. And my senior year, you get into your higher level sport management classes, your internships, your practicums. That's what I have to do next year. That's what I'm thinking last year. Well, I hit the portal and I go to UNA, and it falls under kinesiology, which means all my sport business, my business ethics, all of those classes now count as those
electives?
Electives, thank you. So I get 1 credit hour, and it does not go towards sport management degree.
Oh, that's a big punch in the face.
Yeah. So I get in.
Your 3 hours end up going to being 1 hour.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, going into this, I'm in my academic meeting in August. I'm thinking, I should be able to graduate in 5 months. I'm ahead of schedule and everything. And I sit down, and you need 120 hours to graduate. She says, you have 62. Excuse me? I have 62? I'm a senior. That shouldn't be possible. She breaks it down for me, and she said, well, you can graduate with sport management, but it will be next December at the very earliest. Oh boy. All right, we're starting this year off hot.
So next December, so 2025
December.
You
at the very earliest. Yes, with my bachelor's. So I would have to go for 4.5 years.
Just to get your bachelor's.
Just to get my bachelor's for 4.5 years. Oh. So I figure out that I do the math. If I get my medical red shirt, I can get my grad degree next year. So I end up changing my major to interdisciplinary studies with an emphasis in sport management that will graduate. I'll walk in May.
What does that mean? Interdisciplinary studies.
To be honest with you, if you've ever seen those those wide receivers or quarterbacks or D tackles, and you're like, that guy doesn't know how to write his own name. They have an IDS major. That's like the fallback of these are the easy classes. Or like a communications of its.
How does that make you feel?
I just really hope this medical red shirt goes through, or the junior college thing we talked about goes through, because I don't know what I'll do with that degree. The good thing is I was talking to the academic people at UNA.
Yeah.
They said if you give your resume, they can see all the sport management classes. If you explain to them what happened, they see you're an athlete, they see you have your sport management classes, and just explain to them the road you went on, you should be good.
Yeah, like you're not a loser. Like you're.
So I have that safety net of explaining it.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to send an electronic one, I don't want to have to write a page document explaining why I have an IDS major versus a sport management and that path I've gone through. But I have the safety net of all those classes I took at now 3 different institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
so you technically will graduate when?
May of this year. Yeah, my IDS, I would walk in May of this coming year, May 25.
So then does that allow you to tackle a master's?
Yes, I would get my master's.
So technically then it wouldn't really matter at that point.
That's what we were thinking. If I get my master's in sport management, then the IDS is all good.
Yeah, no one's gonna care about that.
That's why the med red, I was so nervous about it, and then this JUCO thing, another use of the word safety net right there, that extra year or two potentially if it goes through would be huge.
Because the way I'm thinking about it is it's scholarship money and like money in, money out, and being able to get hit in the face like that with taking your 3 hours and changing it to 1 hour is like, that's money that was put in and now you literally got rugged.
Yep.
And you're like, yep, all that money that you just spent does not mean a damn thing.
Yep. And the hard part was I talked to him and I was like, guys, you can see that it's sport management. Right?
Yeah.
Because it falls into two different departments that shouldn't deter me from being able to get my degree. So I had to go through the university and get send them a list of 25 classes I'd taken and get approved or denied. So I went from 62 hours till I got a couple approved, but I'm still at 85. I would need 45 hours or whatever the number is to graduate in May. And I was having this conversation in October. So I'd have to take 15 classes in the spring while traveling. I was like,
It's such a ratchet because, like, at the end of the day, it's like, do you know the knowledge or do you not know the knowledge? And then, like, you're getting the paper to show that you have the knowledge.
yeah.
So then, like, it's just because, like, credits don't transfer, and obviously the whole major thing, that's nuts.
And it's hard.
But you couldn't see that. That'd be like, that's like, you're not seeing that.
No.
It's very hard to.
Correct, yeah. It was the big kick in the gut was because I'd done so well in the classes. I didn't just pass. I'd never gotten a C in my life. It was one thing I'm proud of in being a college athlete. And to watch it all just go to an elective was
it's tough.
It hurt.
Yeah, so when I transferred to Missouri State, I had an AA, right? But then I chose microbiology. And one thing about microbiology is that you have labs.
Yep.
So when I was about to switch my major, they were going to change most of those credits that I did with my biology to electives. So I feel that pain. I know what that pain feels like.
Another one was every institution has their own rule on what classes you have to take, what are requirements. So I was the only one that was not a freshman in my freshman history class this this fall because they had a rule you had to take this history class to be able to graduate.
Yep. That's what happened. That's what
I'd only
happened to
been
me.
for 1 year. I'm only there for 1 year, so I have to take that in that 1 year. And I'm 22 years old. I'm sitting in the back corner, and these 18-year-old people are looking at me like they're terrified of me.
Yeah, like does that guy have kids?
yeah.
No, I know how that feels like. So when I switched to economics, I was basically in all the entry classes because I had to prove myself to get into the program.
Yeah.
And my first semester was all freshman and sophomore classes, and it was not fun because I was a junior. It'd be a second semester junior.
Well, I found myself because you don't want to go on your phone in class, especially when you're an athlete, because all you have to do is email your coach. Boom, you're in trouble. Yeah. But it's all stuff I've learned before.
Yeah,
I'm sitting there for 5 months in a class that I know what you're about to say. I feel like I was spoiling the end of a movie. I knew these kids, it's a history class. It gets relatively interesting, but I already know what's going to happen. These kids are focused, and I know what he's going to talk about for the next 5 class periods. But I still have to be here. It sucks.
So what would be like the biggest thing if you look back at like the last 3 years, 4 years, that you saw that you did right and that you saw that you did wrong?
Did wrong, most definitely 100%. Rode the emotional roller coaster. When I was throwing well my freshman year, I was on top of the world. There were times, and I'd never done this my whole life, I think there were probably times where I was a little egotistical, and I didn't even know it because I was just going through life like nothing could stop me at that point. I was throwing really well. Pretty much every weekend, I was expecting myself to give up less than 2 or 3 runs and go 6 or 7 innings.
Yeah.
And there were times I threw 1 or less runs. I was throwing really well. And then my sophomore year, rode up and down. Because I was throwing hard, I could beat bad teams, but good teams would hit me around a little bit. But I would hold my own. Then I got really high when I was throwing well in the fall, really low last year. If I could go back to freshman year and tell myself anything, it would be stay right in the middle.
Yeah, stay even.
Yeah. When you're throwing well, keep throwing. When you're throwing poorly, take a step back and look at it.
What did you do right?
The relationships. That was a huge thing. Even last year didn't go well. Going into that exit meeting, like we talked about earlier, I still have that relationship. I could text them Merry Christmas in 2 days and they would respond. It's not like I'm going to text them. It's going to be a green bubble because they blocked my number.
Yeah.
I talk to my junior college coaches every single day, talked to my UNA coaches yesterday, teammates from all 4 or 5 summer and collegiate teams I've played for, still talk to them every single day. So just having those relationships, because you never know where that's going to take you. There's people that I never thought I'd see again in my life that I run into just randomly. Like,
Probably kept you in D1 baseball.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Just that.
Or probably even kept you out of the. I mean, there's so many guys that have transfer portal like woes when they never even got into another program.
Yep. Just that was one thing I did correctly my freshman year, was being I don't want to say people person, but being outgoing, being respectful. That way, when I told, because this was one of the jokes when I got to UNA, was I told them no 3 times, but they still were, thank you for thinking of us. We'd love to have you, because I wasn't like, no, I'd never go there. I would never acted like that. There were a couple times where I felt terrible because I wouldn't even see a coach texting me. I have to text him a week later. I was like, that's bad, but that's a complete accident. But having those relationships, being respectful, always trying to be available, helped substantially down the long road.
Well, probably your biggest strength is that you're so genuine too. Like, even when you make a mistake, you label it as a mistake. I mean, I'm just thinking back to that conversation that you had with your Wichita State coaches in the conference room on your exit meetings.
Yeah, and
I had a couple. At least, guys, I still don't know how to throw a baseball.
well, that was a couple things that got brought up in the transfer portal. Was coaches called me and they say, "Okay, what happened?" Immediately after we got off that phone, they call Wichita State.
Yeah, and they probably got addicted to the story.
Yeah,
to be honest with you,
they probably were like, "What?"
They were just curious. Yeah, they were just curious, like, what's going on here?
And a lot of them called me back. They'd be on the phone with me for an hour, on the phone with them for 30 minutes, and they'd call me right back after that call with Wichita State. And the first thing I heard a couple times was, "You were telling the truth."
Yeah.
You guys ended on good terms. Because a lot of guys they've heard of guys that say, "Yeah, we ended on great terms. You can go ahead and call them." I heard one story, some guy said that, but then they called the school and he threw a chair at the coach in the exit meeting. Like, no, you didn't end on good terms. I don't know what your definition of good terms is, but that certainly is not it. And so
a player threw a chair at a coach.
Yeah. Or like flipped a chair on his desk or something.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what it is, like you've got to be a real good player if you're going to do that. Like, you've got to be an absolute stud.
Yeah. So for them to call Wichita State, and a couple of the coaches there, I overcashed with one of them. I heard him tell a coach, he deserves success.
Yeah.
So for them to hear that I was completely honest with them. And that was another thing I learned, was accepting and being able to talk about when things aren't going well, because it allows people to help you. When I was struggling, if I would have been, I'm fine. I did it for 2 months. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm totally good. Then I was just shutting people off. Over the summer, I kind of just let loose, saying, hey, this is what happened. And this is a little too, I don't want to say emotional, but too open for you. I'm sorry, but this is the full story. Yeah. And people respected that.
But you probably got that point because you probably worked your tail off and they could see that. So you built those reps in their mind's eye and they saw that. And then they gave you permission to actually be more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you're a guy that's super vulnerable right off the get-go and you're always like saying what's wrong and you haven't put in the reps, they're just like, oh, this guy's probably a complainer.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like those reps probably helped you like invest, like it was basically an investment.
Yeah. And another thing was, a lot of people respected my constant, my mom gets on me for it sometimes. That's probably irritating, but I'm always asking for feedback. Because there's
I remember that
20 guys.
You'd ask me for feedback. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not a pitcher.
You
look great.
But at UNA, we have 20 pitchers. So we have 20 pitchers, 20 hitters that hit off Division I pitchers, and coaches that this is their life. I'm surrounding myself with opportunity for feedback. So when I go in there, and it shows you care too. When you go through and you ask guys, one, it's giving me feedback from what is a hitter seeing. Two, a pitcher's typically going to look at mechanics. Yes, they watch a result, but they're like, how does this guy throw? Especially early in the fall, they're analyzing their competition. Coaches, obviously, they want to help you. So having that relationship with them and asking for feedback, they're like, this guy cares. This guy works, he cares, and he's easy to talk to. And outside of that, my performance, obviously I care. But once I've taken care of that stuff off the field, I don't have to worry about the performance.
Yeah. Whatever
happens, I prepared myself. If I can walk away from the game at the end of the day and say, I prepared myself, I got beat today or I won today, okay. That's how it is. that was having those things pile up, those 3 or 4 things, that reputation, I think kept me in Division I baseball.
Out of all the conversations that you had from all the coaches that you've had, I mean, there's probably so many that you've talked to, from college coaches to high school coaches, but let's just stick with college.
Okay.
On the recruiting end, how could you cipher through the bullshit?
A lot of it was
a better term.
Yeah, I think some part of it was knowing the people, hearing from, hey, Spiker, what do you know about this guy? Hey, Dave, what do you know about this guy? And most of the time, you guys were always, we were 17, so you're like, this guy, he may know what he's talking about, he may not. So that, in my mind, I'm like, okay, X, cross them off. But as I got older, when you call them and you hear the same conversation over and over, that was a big red flag for me. When there's it feels like a script.
Yeah.
Because when you try to have, and I didn't notice this until I got a little vulnerable this summer when I had to, when the response didn't change from after a really bad year to a really good year from freshman year to after my junior year. When it was the same conversation, it was just like, he says this to everybody. Because he didn't know what to say. It would be long silent periods after the big long explanation of what happened last year, and then it'd kind of be the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he didn't know what to say, so he went with the same thing. And I think a lot of kids, I tell my brother this all the time, do your own research. That helps with the phone calls. Because I found myself a couple times getting one of those bullshit speeches, and then I go through, and they're like, hey, you're going to be a weekend guy here next year. I go through, and there's 24 returning pitchers, and 10 of them through 70-plus innings or whatever astronomical number it was.
So smart, looking at the stats and
I
then
was just
figuring
like,
out.
There's mathematically, unless I go in there and hit 90 for the first time ever as a freshman and don't allow a run in the fall, I'm not going to be a weekend starter. I just had to figure that out myself. So doing that, doing your research, knowing who you're talking to, deciphering through that whole conversation, because you're having a conversation, but you're also kind of playing a game, a back and forth cat and mouse game. With you
don't want to reveal all your cards. They don't want to reveal all their cards.
You feel them out, they feel you out. You kind of have this back and forth conversation. So if you can understand what they're trying to get out of it, that helps you. And then once you're done with that conversation, or even preferably before, when they say they're going to call you, because they're not just going to randomly call you, they'll text you. Do your research.
So you would actually go onto the websites, figure out the stats, figure out like, okay, this guy's a senior, he's going to be probably leaving, or he's probably going to get drafted. This guy's having a really good year. More than likely, he'll be in the draft. So I got to make sure he gets drafted. So then it opens up a little bit more leeway.
Or some of them were super easy. I mean, nothing against these coaches, but I was doing my research before or after. What did they think I was going to do here? Because they'd say, yeah, we're going to compete for a conference championship. They haven't won more than 10 games in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't know
how that's going to happen.
I've never talked to a coach and thought, man, they're terrible. I hope they never win anything.
Yeah.
I hope everybody I talk to wins everything. But it just doesn't seem feasible.
I don't think that's the greatest sales pitch, is to come out and be like, hey, we only won 10 games last year.
We've averaged 10 wins for the last half a decade. We're going to go win a conference championship. That's hard to sell. That's hard for me to sit there as an 18-year-old and say, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, history is going to repeat itself. Yeah.
And just going through the position by position. Another thing, do your research on the coaches.
How would you do that?
Twitter was one way to do it, or just following their progression. On D1 baseball, I know not everybody has a subscription, but my family does, because my brother and I both went through the recruiting process. My brother's currently going through it at JUCO. But you see the coaching carousel. There's like a little tab for
a subscription for where?
For D1 baseball.
Okay.
D1baseball.com.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's going through that, and you see the headlines. It's not going to tell you everything. It's like deciphering through ESPN. MLB trade rumors right now.
Yeah, it's your transaction log, basically.
95% of the rumors, incorrect. You hear Arenado's going to the Astros, now all of a sudden he's going to the Yankees.
Yeah.
So read through those and take it with a grain of salt, but you get a general idea. It's like reading through Wikipedia. Okay, this isn't factually 100% correct, but I have an opinion now. So you can look at that. And then if you just look up these coaches, it's a pretty big red flag for me. If he's been through 8 schools in 10 years, this is not good. Or for me as a pitcher, what's the team ERA in the last 5 years or since this guy's been there? And there's some times where it's hard. Okay, he's been there for 2 years. Okay, they just went D1, or they're in a crazy hitter-friendly conference. You have to. There's the
You have to look
variables.
at the ballparks. Like there's a lot of variables that you have to consider.
But if you look at a team, they've had 4 years in a row of a 10+ ERA. I don't care what ballpark you're playing in. Normally not really good if you have a 10+ ERA. So there's the easy, just stick out to you, and then just continue to do your research. So just going all the way full circle to what I talked about when I first got in here was that list I went through, D1, D2, NAI, JUCO, did my research. JUCO's a little harder because the coaches move a lot more.
Yeah.
Like at my JUCO, we had the pitching coaches come in for 2 years.
Yeah, because I mean the salaries aren't great.
Yeah.
So like that's why there's a lot of movement.
And they use JUCO. Most of them use JUCO other than the head coaches, just like we do.
Yeah.
Because they want to go to the big school. They want to go to the 4-year. So it's hard to do your research on them. That's kind of having to look at the conference they're in, the location, because whether they're really good or not, it's kind of hard to get recruited out of Minnesota or North Dakota, wherever you want to go. So location, conference, and then just the trend. Have they won? Have they a rich history?
I going back to that conversation where you said like the guys have a script. I've noticed that like whenever like we're having this conversation right now, I can really tell a person by how long of a conversation we have.
Yep.
Like, is this someone I like? Is this someone I don't like? Do I agree with him here? Do I not agree with him here? I feel like kids don't take that opportunity for those phone calls because it's tough. I mean, it's your first real interaction with an adult that you don't know.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But it's a very good opportunity to try to extend the conversation as much as you possibly can to figure out like, do I even like this guy?
Yeah.
Do I even like this person?
Big time. I think ask me what I did wrong. That was one. When I heard the Power Fiber bust,
Yeah.
it was, if I'm having the conversation, I know I'm having it over the phone, but in this example, let's say we're having it face to face. Instead of me looking at your face, I'm looking at the logo of Auburn on the front.
Yeah.
I'm blinded by the school and not looking at
The person.
Because these are people you basically have to live with for 9 to 10 months. You're at the field all day. You travel together.
Yeah, 9
you're
hours a
practicing
day.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not small amounts of time. It's
And
a lot of time.
it's hard. Once you go down that mental rabbit hole of, I just don't want to be here, it's hard to get out of that funk. So you want to surround yourself with people that you want to be with.
Yeah.
That will help you get better and just help you be a better person.
Yeah, because if you nail down the coaching staff and you talk to them, you probably have a good idea of what type of player they're going to recruit.
Yep. The rest takes care of itself once you understand who you're going to play for.
So would you ever recommend, like, say you're talking to the recruiting coordinator, do you think that you could have done this where you're like, hey, could I have a conversation with the head coach too?
Yeah, I've done that a couple times.
Or even like the other assistant coaches?
Another thing that I think not a lot of people utilize is, can I have a conversation with a player? That's a big one. Of, can I talk to a guy that graduated?
So similar to what we're doing right now is like guys can watch this and they're listening to us right now.
Yep.
So they have a good idea of like, okay, this is what a JUCO D1 path is, but like actually going into the university and that roster and be like, hey, could I talk to Bob, whatever?
Yeah, because talking about D1s, talking about JUCOs, everything, every school, everywhere is so different. So individually, okay, this is the typical JUCO I'm going to get. Everybody knows JUCOs, you're going to get long days, you're going to play a lot of games, you have a lot of opportunities. That's just how it is. But I want to see if I make a mistake, is this guy going to come and rip my head off? If I miss down the middle on accident, I'm not trying to do that on purpose. I'm never trying to make a mistake. But I want to know, is that the guy I'm going to play for? So, hey, can I talk to a guy that potentially is a senior, potentially graduated? Because those guys are kind of on their way out.
And they don't really
Older,
care. They don't
gonna,
care anymore.
Yeah, they're going to give you more of a real opinion.
Yeah.
You talk to a sophomore at a 4-year, he's a kind of a younger kid trying to be respectful because he doesn't want it to come back on him that potentially he was talking bad about the school. And he also wants to play for a good team, his junior or senior. So he's gonna give you the sales pitch that the coach gave him.
Yeah.
And I had guys, when I left Mac, I was honest with them. It's like, hey, it's a great place to be, but there is nothing to do in the town.
Yeah.
And I gave him the pros, I gave him the cons.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to. Another thing that goes into that is from a player's perspective. I don't want to ruin the reputation of the school by lying.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. But yeah, talking to players, you get a lot out of that.
Yeah. Because like at the end of the day, you have no skin in the game, so you really don't care.
Yeah.
And at the same point, Like, you just want to make sure that you're doing that player right.
Yep. And even if they tell you what you want to hear, if they kind of, you can tell by their tone, they're a little disrespectful, they cut you off, they rush through the conversation.
You're talking about from the coaching,
from even coaches or players.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He told me what I want to hear, but I didn't really get to speak. The conversation was 3 minutes long.
Yeah, one-sided.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. Then you do your research, follow up, or you talk to a different person. Then if it's the same thing, okay, maybe this isn't a program for me, or maybe that's exactly what I want to play for. How many
hours do you think you spent on just research?
Too many to count.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a lot of it around this time of year when I'm off school.
So it'd be like let's just say you almost doubled the time.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably a good estimate.
Yeah, I want to shout out to my mom. She helped me a lot with the research part of it.
Yeah,
because just working from home, she's got 5 minutes. Boom, she's gonna do some research. And she would just send me articles.
Yeah,
and then when I'm on the bus at a junior college or I'm sitting in class in high school, I can just read through those, go to my list. At one point, I had 50 Division I schools ranked. This is where I want to go. I mean, you can say where you want to go all you want, but sometimes it doesn't work out. But I had the list. I gave myself a template idea.
How many schools do you think you talked to?
I think at one point out of high school, I talked to 104 JUCOs. And I think throughout my Division I, or my JUCO career, I talked to north of 100 Division Is. Because I had my freshman year, I got my first offer. SLU U, like 4 weeks into the year. It's freshman. I was, whoa. That's big. I just hit 90 for the first time.
Yeah, it's tempting just to take it.
Yeah, but I took a step back. I said, I don't want to rush anything because I'm betting on myself at that point of if I have a rough year after this point, I'm going to look like an idiot. But I bet on myself, and I just had conversations throughout the whole year. I told my coach I'm coming back, and I had thrown 70 innings. And when I got offers over the summer, I told coaches I would love to play for you, but I'm a loyal guy. I told my coach I'm coming back. I'm not going to leave him looking for 70 innings in the middle
That just
of
makes
July.
you want. That just makes you want. They want you more after that.
Yeah,
like a lot of people don't understand like human nature. Like when the person that's hard to get is usually the person that gets most of the attention.
Yeah. And it was hard because as a freshman, I was about to turn 19 years old, so I'm 18 over the summer. Like, no, Georgia Southern, you just went to a regional. I'm not going to come play for you. Yeah. That's really hard to do. But I sat in their office face to face, just like how you and I are, and said, I told my coach I was coming back. I'm going back. I'm sorry. I will text you every single day if that's what you want.
How tempting was it just to go?
Very tempting. Because they're good at what they do. It's their job to give you the sales pitch. I met almost the entire football staff when I was down there, just to use Georgia Southern as an example. I met the head coach, a couple of the other coaches. They
threw the kitchen sink at you.
Yeah, they drove me around. I met the coaching staff of the baseball team, showed me around.
I always find it funny that these universities now know exactly how to tap into the human emotion, where they'll everyone wants the Instagram photo.
Yep.
And they lean real into that. And so they'll put you in the uniform and they'll make you feel like you're part of the team and everything like that. But it's just a facade because at the end of the day, when you get into the fall, a lot of universities are starting to do this. They don't give you the name on the chest anymore. They give you a blank shirt and it says like a catchphrase or some word that makes you feel good. Yeah. Right. And it's like, no, you got to earn your stripes. Yep. You're not here yet, but they make you feel like you earned your stripes by putting you in that media room and taking pictures. They give you
your day.
Yeah.
Like your day of, I'm a Georgia Southern Eagle. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, this is me.
Or even like taking you to the football game, make you really feel like you're part of the student culture and everything like that. So it's just a lot of temptations.
They ask some of the players, they take them out to dinner.
Yeah, which is nothing wrong. I mean, that's just part of the gig. Like you got to experience it to actually know what you're actually getting yourself into. But at the end of the day, it's more about the people than the facilities or the uniforms or anything like that.
That was one of the hardest no's I actually gave ever was Eastern Kentucky because they did exactly that. Excuse me, sorry.
Oh, really?
I went and it was hard because I went with my best friend, my roommate. We visited together. And we were on the official visit, so they paid for everything. Once again, 19 years old, getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner paid for me. I ride around campus in the golf cart. I went to one of the guys' apartments. Yeah. We watched the World Series, I believe, at the time. And sitting there and saying, this isn't it. It's so hard. It's so hard because you never know. It could seem like a great decision at the time. And there were times last year where I was like, maybe EKU was for me, that you question it, or maybe whatever school was for me because this isn't working. So it's all hindsight's 2020, but because looking back on it, I can't blame myself because Wichita State seemed like the right decision, but it's just because of the facade. I knew the coaches, I had the relationship, they had the facilities, they had the history. They made me feel like I was the one. All right, let's do it.
When do you start talking about the details of like money? And
I would say relatively late, but I'm glad I'm here to talk about this. Especially with the transfer portal, there's mildly somewhat of a rush where you have to talk about it while not talking about it because the transfer portal is so short, and it's 6 weeks over the summer, I think, or something, 8 weeks.
It's a rush.
But you also have to give yourself enough time to move your entire life down there. Like for me, I rushed because I don't want it. My fiance and I. It's not like I'm living in a 4-bedroom apartment with 3 teammates. I have a couch, I have a TV, a kitchen table. I have the whole.
You had the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole house to move. So at the same time, it was, hey, how you doing? Gave him the story like we talked about. What's the scholarships looking like? Because I also don't want to go to a school and be like, man, I've done well for 3 years and now I'm paying for my entire tuition. But I also understand it at the same time. So I can't have a year like last year and be like, yeah, I'd like 400% scholarship, please. That's just disrespectful and almost.
So how do you approach that conversation?
Do
you have to earn that?
I wouldn't say earn it, but you have to be respectful. Because I've been in conversations. In junior college, they brought me in all the time, talk to kids on visits, talk with the families. It was basically my room because my roommates, SEMO, EKU, now I'm at UNA, and then our 4th roommate got picked up by the Angels. That was with the Braves. So our room was pretty good for a junior college room. So they typically brought us out, and I heard what a lot of people said. You hear a lot of interesting things, but a lot of them was they just went straight into it. Scholarships, what are we looking at? No, you can't do that as an 18-year-old. You have to show this, and because the coaches are giving you the utmost respect, taking time out of their day, which I don't think people understand how busy college coaches are. They're not just there to coach games and practices.
Yeah.
So with that respect, you have to reciprocate it, and they'll be a little more open to talk about it if they're like, "Yep, this kid cares. He doesn't just care about the money." Because if you talk about scholarships first, they're like, "Oh, he wants the money."
So you have to wait till it opens.
Yeah, talk about the program, show you care, and then so I was talking to my family. What's the scholarships looking like? Because then they're like, okay, we covered the basics. We did the whole. He wants to play for us, and it doesn't seem as if money's the make or break. The transfer portal is different because you have to hurry. I was talking to a couple schools where I was talking to one guy about the baseball program and one guy about scholarships. 2 different coaches with the same school. Because it was the separation of church and state almost. Where I could talk about baseball and not be focused on the money, and then talk about the money and not have to focus on baseball.
Yeah.
We could have that, and it's a little different because I'm 22.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Being older helped a little bit too.
Yeah.
Why I wasn't calling my dad and what do these numbers look like? What does this really mean? I understood it a little more. But
so, I mean, that's kind of where with me on the money issue, I never spoke until they spoke about that. And I knowing you had so many different conversations, you could have had that.
Yeah.
Do you need to get that?
I'm not sure. Let me check that.
Take a pause. All right, we're back. So your recommendation would be just feel out the room.
Yeah.
Feel out, and then kind of go through the process. And then when you feel like there's an opening, take the opening. Just don't come in and blow the doors open and say like, hey, what type of money am I getting?
Yeah. And I'll always go back to the research. But anywhere in life, research is great. In this scenario, you do your research through the first conversation. I never, ever, ever talk about money when I first call the coach. Never. I felt them out. Are they kind of an old grumpy coach that maybe talking to an assistant coach is going to be better about this, or I have to wait for him to talk about it, then we have that conversation? Or is he younger and he understands, hey, money's a big thing nowadays. Money is what runs college sports these days. Scholarships, NIL, all that. So you have to figure out who you're talking to. Is he a family guy that understands that money or scholarships help families?
Mm-hmm.
What type of coach is he? Maybe that's a second or third phone call conversation. Maybe it's a last phone call conversation of this money is maybe tight on their end, money is maybe tight on my end, and this thing has to be talked about, but I don't want to ruin what we have. So it's a situational question, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the best way to put that.
Yeah, it's hard to really give guidance, but I guess like a good overarching blueprint would be wait for your opening and then take it when you see it.
Yeah. The overall, in conclusion, wait, be respectful, and be open. Because the first offer they give you is not always the last offer they're going to give you. There is a negotiation piece to it.
How many times did you go through the recruiting process?
High school, first year freshman.
First year freshman, yeah.
Freshman year. OU, after Wichita State. So 5 or 6.
5 or 6, okay. Yeah. And then now that you are a seasoned veteran, you're like the 36-year-old vet now with the recruiting process. What would you give the advice to your high school self?
My high school self?
Yeah, like if you could like go back and be like, you're so silly that you need to start thinking about this.
Keep posting. Because my friends would always, you don't want to be picked on by your friends. When I post something on Twitter when I'm a sophomore and I'm 79 today, I'm excited. Your friends go back and like, hey, did you see that guy down the road that there was 104? And so it deters you a little bit from posting and putting yourself out there. But that's what.
Why do you think guys do that?
I think it's just a competitive nature thing of just get under your skin, pick on you a little bit. Because it's never the random guy in school that comes up and says it to you. It's always your best friends. Yeah. And that hurts even a little bit more.
Yeah.
But just keep putting yourself out there. Another thing, the best advice I could give is keep your name in circulation. Because even if you email a coach, it's so important. Emailing a coach one time and, oh man, I didn't get a response.
Yeah,
I'm not going there.
If you're not being talked about, you're a nobody.
Want to hear a fun fact of the day, Spiker?
Yes.
There's one school that has ever blocked me because I messaged them too much. Wichita State University. Wonder where I played last year? Because I put my name out there so much, and that coaching staff changed, so it's different. But that coaching staff ended up going to Nebraska, and Nebraska was one of my final 3 of talking to Nebraska last year.
That's hilarious.
Because I was down to 2, and then Nebraska came in. And I was like, being a Husker wouldn't be so bad. So it was down to the 3. I don't even know if we talked about scholarship at this point. They were just there, and being a Husker didn't sound so bad. But they'd seen my name so much that even if it's
so great.
It's just like Oklahoma State was one of them. It helps that slight flex. We were friends with the Holidays growing up. That helped. Matt was there. His dad was there. His brother was there. That helped a little bit. But they saw my name so much. I emailed them.
Yeah.
Once I got their number, I'd text them. I wouldn't text them as frequent as an email because that is a personal thing. He could be with his family. I don't want to blow up his phone.
Yeah.
But then when they go around a complex, so they're going around Lake Point, they're going around Grand Park in Indianapolis. Oh, we're going to watch this kid. Well, there's that Oswald kid. I've seen that name everywhere. Let me check him out. Let me see what he's like while I'm here.
Yeah.
Because you tend to play in those tournaments. If you want to go big time, you end up playing those tournaments. And whether they're there to watch somebody else or they're to watch you, they see your name. Hey, I got a break. I got a 20-minute break. Let me see what he's about. Next thing you know, boom. You're going to that school. They're interested. Then they figure out who you really are. Once you're through the email and be so professional, then they figure out who you really are to get a connection.
Because would you consider your talent at that point elite, or would you say that you were middle of the road, or would you say you were below that?
When I was in high school?
Yeah.
I would say I was average.
So it's probably like most players are average, right? So it probably makes a lot of sense just to get your name out there because they're not going to get annoyed by it. I mean, they might. I'd rather them be annoyed by me than not know who I am.
Yep, exactly.
Because you never know. Like if you start throwing a 93, they don't think you're annoying anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a bunch of schools that coaching staff that was at Wichita State reached out to me. When they were still at Wichita State, they unblocked me and reached out to me when I had that 93 my sophomore year. So just keep – and going.
It's like so I'm sorry. I'm thinking about this comparison. It's like that girl that's the nerdy girl that no one talks to. That's a freshman, and then all of a sudden, senior year, she walks in and she has her hair down.
Yep. Exactly.
Blonde hair, and just looks just gorgeous.
You're like,
who's that?
That was her.
That's her.
That's her.
Yeah, like that. Literally, that's what it is. And I would think majority of people are going to be that person. There's just a little small sliver of people that are the 1%ers that throw 91, 92, 93 out of high school.
Do I have like 30 seconds to go on a little rant here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. One thing that helped me, and I think is the reason I still pitch at a high level and had the opportunity to, if I didn't get hurt or suck last year, I would have played pro ball. Mm-hmm. I trusted the process. It's like you said, the 1%ers that are 91, 92 in high school, even the 0.1%ers these days. I saw a lefty on Twitter the other day. I was 96 in high school. Guys, that's not normal. It's a freak of nature. But I trusted the process of learning how to pitch. That's another thing I would tell my high school self. I didn't focus on, okay, I'm 79. I want to be 81. That's not going to do you a ton. When you're 88 and you say, okay, I want to be 92, that'll get you places. When it starts with a 9, that'll get you places. But learning how to pitch is what kept me going, because my speed and all that, and my breaking stuff was above average, but my velocity average to below average. But I had the timing stuff, the mixing pitches, the mental awareness to be able to beat the best hitters around. And I'd take my 84 and good morning, good afternoon, good night, because that 84 looks like 92 after I mix all that stuff up. So trusting the process and allowing yourself to grow and not rushing it is potentially changed my life. Kept me in divisional baseball, got me a degree, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, because if you would have velocity first, you probably would be out of the game by now.
Yeah, I would have been
burnt out.
Yeah, you would
because
just keep
you wouldn't
going.
know what to do. You wouldn't know what to fall back on. Because like if you could fall back on getting outs, like that's pretty easy to do.
And even when I was a junior, I never thought I'd come back. In college, I was a junior in high school, but here I am in the summer. Don't throw as hard anymore. Trying to figure myself out. Still with a 1.2 ERA or whatever. So I still had that in my back pocket of being able to pitch, mixing my pitches, doing the timing stuff that I used to do in high school. Falling back on that, having that in my back pocket, saved me. He's only 83, 84 recruiting process, but he has a 1.2. He's still got it.
Yeah.
So and then I grow from there. Now I'm back up to 88. Now we're gonna go for 90. It's gotta keep climbing.
So how was your exit meetings this time around?
Pretty good. They talked a lot about I'm bought in. I'm all in. That's a big thing at Wichita State. When I was having a rough year, I kind of got the memo in March, even before the ankle thing happened. It's gonna be tough to stay here next year.
Gotcha.
So I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And at UNA, I'm all in. I drive almost an hour to school every day, but I'm there at 8 a.m. every day. I don't leave till 8 p.m. And they know I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can. Because it's a lot easier to forgive a guy if he struggles, if he doesn't live up to the potential. But you knew he gave everything he had, like being prepared going into a game.
Yeah.
I know the film. I know their tendencies. I know my own stuff. I bettered myself this week. Just got beat. They can live with that. If you're all in, you're bought in, you're a team guy, you give everything you have, that's going to get you places too.
Well, I enjoyed this conversation.
Me as well. Thank you for having me.
This is really good. So I think a lot of guys are going to learn from this.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just reach out to Spiker if you guys are watching this. I tell my parents all the time, if they ever have any questions or hear of questions, please reach out to me. Yeah. I will help anybody I can, because I want to help guys and I want to prevent people from going through. I don't want to see what I had to go through, but the things I've seen and just the whole long, lengthy process, I would like to minimize that for other people.
For sure.
So reach out to me, guys.
Yep.
I would talk to anybody.
What's your handle? Because I know you're on Twitter a lot.
Twitter, I'm Gavin Oswald 6. On Instagram, I think it's something of that same variety. Gavin Oswald _. Yeah. So reach out to me. I will get back to you as soon as I can. I am busy, but I would like to help anybody I can.
Appreciate it.
So absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. See you guys.
See you.
This was a Rawlings Tigers podcast episode. Please subscribe on your platform of choice. You can watch every new episode on our YouTube and Spotify channel by subscribing. Thank you, and we look forward to posting our next video.